Welcome again to Math 800 Pre-Algebra. This is the bonus video for section 4.3, a little more explanation about why we divide fractions by multiplying by the reciprocal. So, why do we divide fractions by multiplying by the reciprocal? Here's the rule from section 4.3. If you have a over b divided by c over d, in order to do the division you actually multiply, so the division becomes a multiplication, and we flip or take the reciprocal of the second fraction. Well, to figure out why, there are several facts we need to use. The first fact is that there are multiple ways to write division. The second is that you can find equivalent fractions by multiplying the numerator and denominator by the same thing. 3, that multiplying a number by its reciprocal always results in a product of 1. And 4, that dividing a number by 1 leaves the number unchanged. So let's go over those facts in a little more detail. The first one, that there are multiple ways to write division. We can traditionally write it as 24 divided by 4 with the small division bar with the two dots, or you can write that as a fraction. These two things mean the same. When we rewrite fractions, we can either divide the top and bottom by the same thing, or multiply the top and bottom by the same thing. As long as you've done it to the same thing to both the top and bottom, your two fractions are equivalent. 24 over 16 is equivalent to 3/2. 4/5 is equivalent to 32 over 40. A number times its reciprocal is 1. 4/5 times 5/4 is 20 over 20, which is 1. This is the very definition of a reciprocal. And lastly, dividing by 1 doesn't change anything. 5 divided by 1 is 5, or 4/5 divided by 1 is 4/5. Now we're going to put all these facts together to show why that rule works. We're going to start with a basic one that you already know the answer to. 24 divided by 3. You should know that this is 8. But let's break it down into all these steps. First off, we can rewrite that as a fraction 24 over 3. Now we can rewrite that to be the same thing by multiplying the top and bottom by the same number. I'm choosing to use 1/3, so I'm doing the top times 1/3 and the bottom times 1/3. The reason I'm doing this is that 3 and 1/3 are reciprocals, and when you multiply a number by its reciprocal, you get 1. So 3 times 1/3, which is 3 over 1 times 1/3, is 3 over 3, which is 1. Notice to do this, I have to do the same to the top. So 24 times 1/3 is 24 over 1 times 1 over 3, which is 24 over 3. And when you have a number divided by 1, it doesn't do anything. So 24 over 3 divided by 1 is simply 24 over 3, which we already knew was 8. Again, no one in their right mind goes through all these steps. I'm just explaining why it works. So now let's look at a division with fractions. 5/8 divided by 2/3. We can rewrite this as a giant fraction. 5/8 over 2/3. This is what is known as a complex fraction. A complex fraction is a fraction whose numerator and or denominator is also a fraction. Now, we can get an equivalent fraction by multiplying the top and bottom by the same thing. Notice I'm going to choose to multiply the top and bottom by 3/2. The reason I do that is because 2/3 and 3/2 are reciprocal. So when I multiply 2/3 times 3/2, I get 6 over 6, which is 1. However, I had to do the same thing to the top. So I multiplied that first fraction by the reciprocal of the bottom fraction, or the second fraction. I did that to get rid of my denominator. And again, dividing by 1 doesn't change anything. So therefore, 5/8 divided by 2/3 is the same as 15/16. Again, no one goes through this process. Instead, we're lazy and we just jump ahead and say, okay, I know I'm going to eventually multiply by the reciprocal, so let's just jump right to multiplying by the reciprocal. So, that is where this rule comes from. Again, you don't have to have that memorized, but some people really want to know why we divide fractions by multiplying the reciprocal, and that's why. I hope this has helped. If you have further questions, please email me.